Hey everybody, it's Andre Shirdan, and today my guest is Brett Kessler DDS. And fueled by his passion for personal growth, wellness, and fitness, and yes, he is an endurance athlete, Dr. Kessler travels the globe speaking about leadership and well-being issues, including addiction as a recovering substance abuse addict himself. And he has testified before Congress on the ravages of methamphetamines in oral health. He is on the board of trustees for the American Dental Association, and he's been there since about 1999. And we've been virtual friends since 2014, but this is really the first time we've had a chance to connect. And good to see you. How you doing there?
All right. I can't believe it's been this long before we finally get together. So I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for inviting
I
me.
know, I know. Well, that just means that we're both busy, so that's good. And
That's
I
right.
don't I'm not an endurance athlete, so you won't see me out there.
Never know. You
I,
never
well, I
know.
I used to be a competitive cyclist, and I miss that, and I really do. If it wasn't for the knees, I think I'd still be out there. But
Uh-huh.
so
Awesome.
good to see you. And you got my questions, and we're going to kind of go through them rapid fire. And this has been a lot of fun doing this. So let's talk about the fork in the road. And at some point, most of us have hit at least one fork in the road. So can you tell everybody about a fork in the road that you've hit and what that was and how it's kind of impacted your life?
Sure. The biggest one had to be October 21st, 1998. That was the day that I got sober. It was a long stretch of hell, basically, and I didn't even know I was in it. I went to rehab in 1997, a year plus before that date, with the idea of that I could just, kind of get everyone off my back, stop the consequences from mounting. But I had no intention of doing what it took to get my life turned around. And it took about 14 months after that before I realized what I was up against. And the disease of addiction had me, and I hit my last relapse the day before that. And I finally came to believe that there was something better out there, and this was beyond me, and I needed to really seek help. And so every day since then, I've been, it's the first and foremost of my life. Every day I wake up and I say, what am I going to do today for my recovery? And how can I contribute to the world in the best possible way? And everything else is gravy after that. That's first and foremost. When I got sober, I got inspired. The hell of addiction kind of locks you up and makes your world very small. And when I got sober, I saw there was a life of unlimited possibilities out there for me, and I wanted to live my best life every single day. And so that was probably the biggest fork in my road. I've had many since then, but this was the key one.
Yeah. And, I always wondered about how common it was, addiction in our field, in the dental field. And as I kind of got out of the office I was in, I realized how bad it was and how it touched so many lives, and I think when I worked in the front office of the dental office, geez, it's been a long time. I remember, and I think back on it now, and I remember the, Vicodin and Lortab reps who would come in and just drop off boxes. And there was no question of how many they would drop off. It was like, oh, you need more here, I'll give you more. And I never thought about where they actually went, because I used to just kind of hand them out to patients like candy, almost like we did with toothbrushes. And I didn't think about how that would have affected somebody who may have had an addiction issue,
Yeah, the whole opiate culture created a lot of addictions, and they marketed it as non-addictive. And that was one of the biggest times that the big pharma pulled the wool over our eyes, and it created a lot of problems. And big pharma's paying for it now. You can see in the lawsuits and things like that, but it killed a lot of people along the way. So
Yeah.
I'm glad we're finally addressing that for what it is.
Yeah.
So, but you asked about, percentages in our profession, 10 to 15% of humans have addiction problems at some point in their lives. And most people in the dental field are human. I've come to find. And so 10 to 15% is what affects us. So
Yeah, wow, it's amazing. So I'm glad we got a chance to talk about that. Because that shapes so much of again the forks that I've seen in a lot of people that I've interviewed. So let's go to question two, which is tell me about a book that you've read that everybody should be reading and maybe even reading over and over again.
So that's a hard one because I am an avid reader and I'm totally addicted now to self-help books and leadership books, personal growth books. And so the first and foremost book that was most important to me, I read it in early recovery, was Seven Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey.
Stephen Covey.
And I've probably read that 15, 20 times over the years. Now that I'm, the audiobooks are a thing, I'll just pop it in and listen to a chapter every once in a while. And every time I listen to it, something new pops up to me because it's relevant. It's timeless as far as its relevancy. So I would start with that. And I think every other self-help book is some kind of twist of Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. So I love it. Another book that I just read, Courage is Calling by Ryan Holiday. It just came out a couple months ago, and it is a call to action. It is really powerful, really resonated with me. So I would check that out too.
That's good suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love self-help books. I mean, I used to be in my car about 60,000 miles a year, and I would go through, books and books and books. And, it was so funny because these were the years where we were doing cassettes.
Right.
So I really went through a lot of books that way.
I remember those days too. Yeah.
Yeah. Juggling cassettes and MapQuest. That was a little dangerous on the road. Oh man. So let's go on to question number three, which I think we both have a passion for, which is give me a quote or two that you really love.
Again, this was a tough one. I collect quotes and I've got a file. And so the one that popped out to me this morning was by Roy Disney. And it says, "It's not hard to make decisions once you know what your core values are." And being in leadership positions throughout my career, first, I learned personal leadership. I learned what my core values are. And then I kind of matched my core values to any organization I'm, contemplating being in a leadership position or a board position on it. When they match up, it's a good fit. And as you may ask anyone who's on the board of trustees of the ADA, I'm very, very passionate about the core values of the ADA and what we stand for. I think we could do the most good with, when we live in our core values and we're doing everything we can to align within those. They're like kind of a moral compass for us, and we don't have to be perfect in our core values and our activities around our core values, but when we start to drift away from them, we can look at that as a compass to kind of get back on track. And so that's my true north, and it's something that I am very passionate about. So
yeah. And I think Roy is one of those people who is so undervalued in the business sense. Everybody looks to Walt, but Roy's the guy who steered the ship. For the longest time. So
yeah,
good quote.
And look what's happening with them in Florida right now. They stand against what's happening with the Don't Say Gay law that just passed there. And they're, and a core value is something that you stand for, even if it puts you at a competitive disadvantage. So they're really acting within that. And not to get political in any way, but it's interesting to watch, a corporation act in that way. It's admirable.
Yeah, I am the biggest fan of either side of the fence, as long as you stand to your core values and you're consistent with them.
Right.
I'm a fan either way. So yeah. I'm all for it. So I love that. So let's switch to question number 4, which is, and this is always one of my fun things. What's the high tech thing? So it has to have a battery or a plug. What's the high tech thing you can't live without?
This thing.
Yeah.
I don't know how we ever did it. I've got 4 kids, and I grew up with a phone attached to a wall with a long cord, and my mom said she was going to pick me up from basketball practice. By God, she was always there. She didn't have to call me. I didn't have to call her. I didn't have to text her. She didn't have to text me. How do we live without this now? It's crazy. And and the least used app on this thing is the phone app. Who calls anybody anymore? But it's just really cool how it brings all this knowledge at our fingertips, and it brings us some level of connection as well through various groups and social media and emails and things like that. So it's kind of a double-edged sword though, because you become dependent on it, and another source of addiction. So
Yeah.
people are going back to nature. Yoga classes have never been fuller. It's kind of great to see the spiritual growth that people are getting away from the connection of the phone to just be. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things, the phone is, I always try to look at trends in technology and think about like when ATMs came out and they said, how it was going to make our lives better and it was going to make banking cheaper and everything else. And then we got to, we got this connection to these machines that it's going to be something of the past because our kids really don't use cash. So there won't be a real need for ATMs in the future,
Right.
So hopefully it will go the same with the phone, So
Yep.
Now let's go to question 5, which is let's unplug and no battery. What's the low tech thing that you can't live without?
I am, as you mentioned before, I'm an endurance athlete, and I love to get outside every day. I try and do something physical, and whether it's outside or whether it's on my treadmill or on my bike, swimming. It's just my body, our bodies are our biggest, most important asset, and so we have to take care of that. And I mentioned this in a recent blog that I wrote about what is wellness. If we are our biggest asset, we have to take care of it as such. We can't produce anything if we're not well. And so we got to look at, physical wellness, do something every day, 30 minutes, get yourself moving. Our friend Uchi Odiatu is a big proponent of that. And, what you put in your body as fuel and how you use your body with that fuel is so important, and then mental wellness, do something every day to stimulate your brain, grow your knowledge about something. It's our brains are always growing. They're plastic. They're always shifting and molding and growing. Emotional growth, emotional wellness, feel your feelings to the best of your ability every day. It's amazing. And then spiritual growth, whatever that looks like for you, whether it's religion, whether it's something that it's in your heart, something that gets you excited to wake up every day, find something you're passionate about to grow your spirit. You do something in those 4 realms every single day, you'll have a good day.
Yeah. Yeah. I have one copy of Time magazine left, paper copy. It's on my shelf over here. And it's a copy of the longevity of life. And it talks about the people who live in Loma Linda, California, and the people who live in Okinawa, Japan. And they live the longest because of diet, spiritualness, and it's a body mind connection. So I'm with you. That's the low tech thing we can't live without is our health. I'm with you. So I love that. So let's go back. Let's circle all the way back to the beginning. And question 6 is let's go all the way back to that fork in the road. And like I said, we've all taken a few. Let's go back to that fork in the road. And what would you give as advice to yourself at that fork that you've taken?
Wow. I'm living it. I would tell myself exactly what I just said, in those 4 elements of wellness, and back then I didn't know what I was getting into. I just knew I wanted to stop hurting. And 23 years later, I've crafted a life that is beyond my wildest imagination. So I would just say, trust the process, be humble enough to ask for help. Go after the best, the smartest people in the room and ask them how they did it, and follow their advice, and and never stop trying to push the needle forward. And unconsciously, that's what I've been doing my entire life. So I guess I didn't need to tell myself that. I just got this spark of inspiration that day, and but I can, I guess, say that it's going to be okay, and it's going to be great. So keep doing what you're doing.
Awesome. So I didn't prepare you for this question, but this is kind of my wrap-up question for everybody. And it is, Brett is who he is today because of hard work or luck?
I think there's an element of both. So for example, when I turned 50, I figured out that I was halfway through my career, and I did some soul searching, and I decided, what am I going to do with the second half of my career that would make a bigger impact than in my first half of the career? And I've done that over the course of my life, where I've really just, 5-year increments. What do I want to accomplish? So I've always had a goal out there. And then I, use that as like, I guess, a guidepost again, along with the core values. And, is it bringing me closer to my goal or further away from my goal? And so hard work, it brought me towards, major goals in my life. But there's a ton of luck involved with that too, because so many unexpected, amazing things happen in pursuit of those goals. And I became someone much better in pursuit of those goals, even when I didn't hit those goals. And so, hard work action is always key. But I think when someone's driven, the universe kind of conspires and things open up in a way that is favorable, not only to that person, but to the world at large.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of that. So I really appreciate you doing this with me today, and I hope you got something out of this. Hope it opened up some minds, and hopefully some of the people who are watching will have a different experience today after listening to it. But thanks so much, and I'm glad we got a chance to connect and do this.
Thanks, Andre. I love what you're doing. This is great stuff, and I hope everyone appreciates what you're doing too. So thank you.
It's been a blast. Take care.
Awesome.